Are you an encourager? Do you encourage other people? We're going to talk about encouragers on this episode of the Driving with Rob podcast. There are people in this world, and I hope you have these people in your life, who encourage you. Now, I'm not talking about cheerleaders. A cheerleader is kind of like a sugar rush. They make you feel better and all pumped up right now, but it fades away pretty quickly. No, I'm talking about the encouragers, those who encourage, who give you courage to face the obstacles in your life. And before I go any further, I want to give you a little disclaimer. If the sound quality sounds a little different now, I'm actually using the microphone at my desk. Ordinarily on the Driving with Rob, I've got this little digital voice recorder, and I actually do record while I'm driving, but the sound quality is a little different. I think this microphone adds a little bit of artificial compression. I wish it didn't, but it does. But today I wanted to talk about encouragers, and I so wish I was an encourager. I can be encouraging, but I don't really consider myself to be an encourager, because there are people in this world, and you know them, or I hope you know them, and I hope you have some in your life, who make you feel better just being around them. There's a passage of Scripture where the two of the disciples, after Jesus left them, said how our hearts burned as he spoke. Just being around Jesus gave them passion and made them feel encouraged. And his passion was infectious to the point that it made them passionate just from having been around him. That's what I mean when I talk about an encourager. An encourager, as I said, is more than just a positive mental attitude. There are some people who just encourage other people. It's just in their nature, is how they are. Now, we all have critics. We know what a critic does. And unfortunately, there are some people who are hypercritical, and we all know those people, and we know who those people are. You don't really like being around those people, do you? They just bring you down. There are some people that you talk to when you're depressed, and you walk away feeling more depressed after you talk to these people. The Debbie Downer types, who can find a dark cloud behind every silver lining. And I think sometimes that people like that, they're miserable and they kind of want you to be miserable too, because it makes them not feel alone. It's the old cliche, misery loves company. Well, it's true. If people are just miserable in general, they kind of want you to be miserable too. But the encourager is kind of the opposite. And we need more of those people. We need those people in our lives. Because there are always going to be times when you are just so overwhelmed and so stressed out, you feel like you can't go on. You feel like you can't do it. You just want to sit in a corner and cry and spend 5 minutes with an encourager. Now you believe you can do it. Now you believe it's not as bad as you thought it was. I have a friend named Bobby. I hadn't talked to Bobby in over a year. We used to work together. And if you're a regular listener to the podcast, you know that I left my full-time job with the safety and security of a steady paycheck to go back to running my electrical business full-time. I always did electrical work on the side, and I am a licensed electrical contractor. But I finally decided I was going to give it a shot on my own again. And when I spoke to Bobby, and it was probably a month ago, he was asking me how the business was going and how things were going in general since I left. And Bobby said, I think this is the perfect job for you because you know how to talk to people. People like you. People like being around you. When somebody has a problem or they're worried about something weird that's going on in their house, you can talk to people and calm them down and explain to them how it's not that bad and that you're going to fix it. And this is what Bobby told me. Well, I only spoke to Bobby for 20, 30 minutes. But after I got off the phone with him, I really did feel like people liked me. I really did feel like I could do anything. That leaving the steady job and the steady paycheck was the best thing I ever did. Because Bobby is an encourager, and he does it without thinking about it. I can be encouraging, but I have to concentrate. I have to make a conscious effort when I want to encourage somebody else. Because I'm a little overwhelmed and a little stressed. And it's a little hard to encourage other people when you're struggling for your life yourself. And I kind of hate this phrase, fake it till you make it. We've all heard that phrase. If you can't do something, pretend that you can until you can. That's what it means. But if you'd like to be an encourager, if you'd like to become an encourager, you kind of have to do that. If you're not already that way by nature, you kind of have to work on it. And I think a lot of being an encourager really comes down to saying the things that you're thinking. Because you can think all day that you admire somebody or that you admire their talent. But when you tell them, you do. Like I said in a previous podcast, once you say it, you breathe life into it. You spoke it into existence. Once you say, I really admire you, you're going to catch a lot of people off guard because there are not nearly enough encouragers in this world. So when you actually start to encourage other people, at first they're not going to know how to take it. But try this. Try telling somebody, I really admire you, and here's why. I really admire that you're able to keep a cool head in a crisis. I wish that I had your talent for singing, for cooking, for fixing cars. See, once you say it and breathe life into it, now you've encouraged somebody. You can think it all day, but until you tell them, it doesn't have an impact on them. We have a friend named Kathy, and Kathy and her husband have retired, moved 1,000 miles away, literally 1,000 miles away. But Kathy was a nurse, and she was also a hospice nurse. Hospice is the organization that comes in after the doctors give up on them. When the doctor says you have 6 months to live, they'll call hospice. The doctors have thrown in the towel. The doctors have said there's nothing else we can do for you. Hospice comes in with love and compassion and encouragement during the literal worst time in your life. And being a hospice nurse is a calling from God. It really is. It must be. Because you're dealing with these people with terminal illnesses and taking as much stress out of their life as you can. They make you as comfortable as possible, and they just love you and encourage you and help you at the end of your life. Whenever me and my wife would talk to Kathy, we would walk away smiling because you could talk about anything with her and feel encouraged just from being around her. We used to say that she had an angelic glow about her. Like her face almost glowed from being that close to God all the time. But Kathy was an encourager. She was able to encourage people who literally had nothing to look forward to but the afterlife. And whenever you saw Kathy, you would start to smile because of how you felt when you were with her. She was just that kind of person. So here's my challenge to you and my challenge to me. This week, try to be an encourager. And it's more than just giving compliments. I think you're awesome, and here's why. I think you're smart, and here's why. I think you're talented, and here's why. An encourager makes you feel like you can do anything because they not only feed your ego, they give you reasons behind it. They make a case for why you're awesome and amazing. It's more than just an ego boost. It's actual encouragement to the point that you feel like you can do anything. But try to become one of those people. Fake it till you make it. Especially if you see somebody who seems to be down and discouraged. Encourage them. Tell them they can do it, that they will make it, and here's why. We're all overwhelmed and discouraged sometimes. Be that person who can tell another person, I know you're going to be okay, I know you're going to make it, because I've seen you do it before. Here's what I know about you, and here's how I know you can do it. That's being an encourager. And that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you downloading. Leave me a comment. Let me know, do you like this microphone better, or do you like the sound quality of the other podcast that I do? I need to know, and how would I know if you don't tell me? Thanks again. I'll talk to you next time. Bye now.